is about integration. And let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, what is integration? Now, integration is the process of connecting Salesforce with external systems. Okay. Now, whenever you're working in the real world, your application will be talking to other applications as well, right? You're not just because orders might be processed in a different system, billing might happen in a different system, marketing tools will be a different system. So those system needs to talk to each other. Otherwise, if they're not talking to each other, you're not going to be able to scale your business. Okay. To share data and trigger actions automatically. For example, whenever a order gets placed, you want to send a notification to a shipping department, let's say, and then they will be the ones shipping the order to that individual. Okay, so then as soon as the order gets placed, you want to send a notification. Now, the reason for integration is to keep the data in sync. That is the number one reason, because you don't want, if let's say an order has been placed, you want to update the inventory, right? And if you don't update the inventory, then what's going to happen is people might place orders when your stock is out. So you have to keep the data in sync. You don't want to do any kind of manual work. You're not going to, every time an order gets placed, call the shipping system, hey, this is the order number, this is the shipping address. You don't want to do that. You want to go ahead and eliminate that kind of manual work, enable real-time automation, and build a connected enterprise systems. Okay, so the purpose for integration is to basically allow systems to talk to each other, send data, and basically eliminate any kind of manual work. Now, there are different ways you can integrate your systems, right? You can go ahead and do an API based integration. So, API based integration, the two most the APIs that you can use is either the REST API, and the other one you have is the SOAP API. Okay, so what is an API? Now, API, as I've told you earlier, also is called Application Programming Interface, and basically it is an interface that you talk to, and it will accept a request and give you back a response. Okay, that is what an API is. And a very good example is when you go to a restaurant, you go ahead and sit at a table. A waiter is going to come to your table and take the order and write that order and take that order over to the kitchen and place that order with the chef or whoever is in the kitchen. And then the kitchen people are going to prepare your order, and then once it's ready, the same waiter is going to bring you back your food and deliver to your table, right? So you as an individual don't know where the kitchen is, you don't know who the one is cooking in the kitchen, you have no idea about these end system. What you are interacting with is this waiter, and that waiter is taking your request and giving you back a response. So that is exactly, in this case, the waiter is nothing but it's an API. Okay. Now, you have two different types of APIs. One you have is a REST API, and the other one you have is a SOAP API. Now, SOAP API usually has been used by legacy systems, okay? And it only accepts the request in an XML format, whereas a REST API can accept the request in the XML as well as in the JSON format. Okay. Now, the REST API is real time, lightweight, and it is basically all the modern integrations that you see are mostly through the REST API. They follow the same methods that are available on an HTTP protocol. Okay. So they have a get method, a post, put, delete. So anytime you have to retrieve something, you will use a get method. Anytime you want to create some new record or insert a new record, you will use a post request. Put request is used to update something. Let's say you want to update the user address or phone number, you will use a put request. Delete is to delete a particular resource. That is when you will use a delete request. Okay. So the data that it accepts, it's either JSON or an XML. So both of these, the REST API accepts data in JSON as well as XML. And what you will do is from Salesforce, what will happen? Let's say Salesforce wants to talk to another system. So one way is this system will expose their APIs so that Salesforce will be able to hit this API and get a response. And we have done ton of examples in this whole series of lectures where we are calling from Salesforce external APIs. We have done a GET request, we have done a POST request, we have done all of those requests. Now we will see if, let's say, you created an API within Salesforce, how to create an API, and let another system, maybe a postman, call our Salesforce API. Okay. And the way you are calling from Postman, if you want to call the API from another Salesforce org, the steps will remain the same. Okay. So it's the first you have to authenticate yourself. And then once you have gotten yourself authenticated, then you can call the actual API. Okay. And authentication is very, very important. And we'll come to that in a minute. So these REST APIs is basically a real-time data sync, right? Anytime a lead gets inserted into your Salesforce, you want to go ahead and send that lead to another system. You can do that with a REST API call as well. You invoke that API and send the data to the other system. Now, the limitation is you can't have bulk records being sent via REST API. Maybe couple of records are okay because you're sending the data over a net of through the REST API, there is a limit on what should be the size of your message should be. Okay, so not in order for you to do bulk records, then you have bulk APIs. Okay. So in this case, website, let's say, creates lead. You wanted to call Salesforce REST API and send that lead over to Salesforce. Now, Salesforce calling another system pricing service to get the pricing of your products. You can call your REST API to do that. Okay. It is fast. It is stateless, means every request will not know what was the previous request about. It is going to be a stateless request, easy to debug, and it provides authentication mechanism, because in order you shouldn't allow another system to just hit your APIs, right? There should be have some authentication mechanism in between to make sure you are taking into account, is this a valid system to hit us, or have they authenticated ourselves? And every API call is going to cost money. So authentication is also very, very important. Any questions up till this point?
Can you explain the put function again?
Okay, put is nothing but it is so, okay, put is, I made a mistake. Put is absurd, not just update. So we have a put method, you have a patch method, you have a get method, you have a post method, and you have a delete method. So put method is a combination of update plus insert. So let's say what's going to happen is if you are passing an ID with the record, okay? So it will figure out, does that record already exist? If it does, it will update the record. Otherwise, it will insert the record. Just like you have an upsert operation, put basically acts the same way. Okay.
Yeah.
Patch is an update operation only, means it will only update an existing record. It will not insert a new record. Get is to retrieve a particular resource. Post is to create something, and delete is to delete a record or a collection of records. Okay, so these are the different methods that are available. Just like you have an HTTP protocol, the methods, it's the same way in the REST API. Also, you have the same methods. Any other questions? Okay. Is everybody able to follow me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So now another one we have is the SOAP API, and the older banking legacy applications are the one that uses SOAP API. In the SOAP API, you have something called as a WSDL file, okay? And it is XML based, and it is a strongly typed um, language, which means that what you have to provide if you remember, what is the meaning of strongly type in Apex?
You need to provide the type of the variable, like
Data type.
integer,
Yes.
data type.
So, yes, it is a strongly typed, and it is basically used for legacy systems. So older systems, the banking applications that were existing from years before all this REST API came in, that still uses SOAP. It is more secured. Financial or ERP system uses SOAP, and it is slower than REST, and it is pretty heavy. It's verbose, so it's the data that you're sending would be a bigger envelope as compared to a simple REST call. Okay. Now, both of these REST and SOAP API usually don't work on larger sets of data. Okay, so for that, you have something called as bulk API. If let's say you wanted to update the CSV file, or you have tens and thousands of records in that CSV file, and you want to do every nightly batch or something like that, then in those cases, you will use is called as the bulk API. Now, it handles large data volumes, and it is asynchronous. It's not synchronous, right? Because you can't handle a large set of data synchronously. So it happens behind the scene. A job ID gets created, then the job gets queued, the records will be processed, and then you are going to check the status of the job and all that. So it will be through, if you have a large sets of data, you can use something called as bulk API, and it is optimized for millions of records. The REST and the SOAP is generally is for the limited number of records only. So if you wanted to do a nightly data sync or any kind of data migrations, then you can use is the bulk APIs. Okay. Now, another one that we have is the event-driven integrations. Now, which is a very, very important integration. You will accompany a lot of interview questions related to this one, is event-driven. So anytime a change happens, right? So what will happen is, let's say, is you have multiple systems you are connected to. Now, in the case of REST and the SOAP, you have what you call as the point-to-point communication. What is the meaning of that? For example, this Salesforce is going to talk to an order system. You need to know the what do you call as um, what is the order system URL, what is it expecting. So you have to write code in order for this particular order system. It's point-to-point communication. Whereas this is different. And in this case, you can have different events being published onto this bus, and there can be consumers or who have been subscribed to these events, and they can listen to those events. So you don't have to do any kind of point-to-point communication. You have an event producer, it will publish it over to the event bus, and then you have an event consumer, and there can be multiple systems listening to the same event as well. All you are doing from your end is publishing an event, and whoever is subscribed to those events, they will listen, they will get the message. Okay. So it is a decoupled way of communication and it is real time. Okay, so it is near real time, not exactly near real time, but is near real time. Moment something happens, an event gets published. Whoever is subscribed to those events will be able to listen to those events. Okay. Salesforce will publish the event and external system are subscribed to the event and it is basically you don't have to remember which systems you are communicating with. It's not a point to point. This is more scalable. Now, tomorrow, another system gets added. All he has to do, that system has to just subscribe to that event, and that system will also start getting those notifications. Okay, so this is one of the most powerful and most in demand is the events publications, and you will see the events being published, and at your end you'll be able to listen. So there is no tight coupling is needed, highly scalable and near real time, just like platform events. So in the platform events, you can specify that, okay, only this pieces of information I want to publish onto the platform event. In the change data capture, you basically tracks the changes of an object, and it will be like account object. So all its fields will be sent. You will create a account CDC event. So it will be all the account information will be sent. If you create a CDC for the lead, all that lead information will be sent. Whereas in the platform event, you can pick and choose between which of the fields you want to send. Whereas in change data capture, it basically publishes the whole thing at a time. Usually you will see platform events ways of communication, but sometimes you might also see change data capture as well. In this particular session, or basically in the integration, I will show you the platform events way of communication, and then I'll give you a small glimpse of the CDC, but then integration remains the same. Either you use platform events or you use change data capture. Behind the scene, it is just that the changes will be sent. Okay, in this case, the complete record will be sent. Here, you can pick and choose which pieces of information that needs to be sent. Now, guys, the integration itself is a vast topic, and this is just a suggestion for you. If you want to learn more about integration in depth, more than what we are going to cover in this particular course, is I have created if you just have to pick one course, is the Salesforce integration with external system course that is available on my website. This is up to you to, and it's not that expensive. It's $15, but it's a pretty good course. That will help you. It's courses, Salesforce integration, and there are two courses. Even if you don't want to do both, I will highly recommend you to pick the first one, which is Salesforce integration with external system. And the second one is a little bit more interesting, means you will learn to code, learn to integrate systems without writing any piece of code. Okay. So that is Salesforce integration with external system part 2. I will suggest you, if you can go through both of them, since you have holidays coming up, you have time, I highly recommend you to take a look at. But if you want to do it one at a time, you can go through this one, Salesforce integration with external systems. But definitely check out these two courses. I have never asked you in this whole session to try any of my courses, but definitely these are worth taking it, and they're pretty good courses on integration. Now, coming back to this one. So anytime you want to publish an event, you can either use platform events or CDC to publish the events, and the other systems who are listening to that will be able to get the update, and then they can process the update at their end. They can read through it, and based on that, if they wanted to update their record at their end, they can do that. Now, when you are doing from Salesforce to Salesforce or one system to the other, you have multiple options. You can either use REST API to call from one API, or you can do platform events. Okay, if I were you, you can go with the platform events, because platform events is something that newly came. Okay, REST APIs have been there for a longer time, but event-based communication has recently been coming, and people are using platform events and CDC events, etc. Now, So far, we have talked about REST, SOAP, bulk APIs, then we talked about platform events. Then there is also enterprise level. Okay, when you have multiple systems, it's important to have a middleware based integration. And one of the best middleware that you can have is MuleSoft. So, MuleSoft basically, let's say Salesforce has to connect to different systems. Salesforce doesn't need to know all the system that it needs to connect. Salesforce knows how to connect to MuleSoft. And then MuleSoft will be responsible for connecting to other systems. So this is a very what you call easier way to scale, and also you don't have to, and MuleSoft is no code integration also. You just have to configure some connectors, you just have to know what the request format it is expecting, what should be the response format. So it doesn't require any heavy writing of code. So it is easier and it is more scalable. So having a middleware also helps. And a lot of companies in mid-size to enterprise level do have MuleSoft in between. And they use MuleSoft to connect with the other systems. Okay, so in order for complex enterprise integration, Salesforce is talking to MuleSoft, and then MuleSoft is going to talk to the multiple systems. And MuleSoft uses API-led connectivity, which means it basically have three types of APIs: system API, process APIs, experience API. That is something from MuleSoft. You don't have to know what all of that is. But when you have multiple system, you want to scale, then you can use is middleware such as MuleSoft also. And benefit is if it's not a point-to-point communication, it is near real time. And MuleSoft handles everything, all the connections and everything. Salesforce just needs to know how to connect to MuleSoft. Okay. MuleSoft will format the data, organize the data in the way those systems is expecting you. And Salesforce just needs to talk to MuleSoft, and MuleSoft will take care of the rest. Okay. So these are different ways of connecting with one system over the other. Now you have a lot of integration patterns as well. And what are the different integration patterns? One is request and reply. So request and reply is like REST APIs, right? You send a request and a response comes back right away. If you're calling the REST API through a future method, then it is going to be asynchronous. So fire and forget is nothing but is the asynchronous method. You fire it and then you forget about it. When the response comes, you will be notified and then you can process that response. Batch sync is when you have large sets of data, you wanted to send that data over to another system. You can have a bulk APIs you will use. And event driven is through platform events or through the CDC events. Any questions so far, guys?
Can you explain those four again?
Okay. So request and reply is basically just like we talked about REST APIs, right? When you send a request, a response will come. That is a request and reply. Now, let's say the request and reply, generally, you are going to call it through a future method. So you will make a call through the future or through the queuable, where you will allow the call outs and all that. So in those scenarios, it will become, you will fired it, it becomes asynchronous, right? You have fired the notification, and then once that response comes, you will know about it, and then you can process that response. So it's asynchronous. Batch sync is when you have large sets of data that you want to update, then you're going to use either bulk APIs to do that when you have large volumes of data. And event driven is nothing but the platform events or the CDC events through which you can publish an event, and whoever is subscribed to the event can get that notification. Okay.
Okay, so the first one is synchronous, the rest are
Asynchronous.
asynchronous, right?
Correct. Yeah. Event driven is near real time. They don't call it asynchronous, but they call it near real time. Now, the next one we have is the error handling and monitoring. So there are different ways of error handling. So you will have, let's say you make a call out and that call out was failed. So you will have up to, let's say, 2 to 3 attempts to retry mechanism. So in your code, you will try to send another call out, max up to 3 limits or 4 limits, whichever, depending upon your how much time policies and all that. So you will build some retry mechanisms. If, let's say, you're sending a platform event and there was an error sending that platform event, all the platform events will have a replay ID, so you can reprocess that platform event using the replay ID. Then custom logging objects will be there. Let's say if you wanted to log any error messages or anything, then you can go back to those error messages and see what went wrong with those records. So there are different ways to handle these errors, right? One is through you have to replay the platform event, uh, log the errors, and then also through the governor limit handling. You wanted to make sure that you're not hitting the call out limit, or the call out is not taking too long. So you have to have some mechanisms to handle these exceptions also. Now, which one to use when? So whenever you have to do any kind of real-time application integration for single record or just a few records, then you will use something called as REST APIs. When you have large volume of data that you want to update or send, then you will use something called as bulk API. When you have different systems, multiple systems, and they all need to get an update, it's better to use MuleSoft. And then, or you can use something called as Salesforce. If there is a Salesforce org and another is also a Salesforce org, and you wanted to send data in between these two org, you can use platform events. And if you want to know, hey, this record got created, this record got updated, this record got deleted, if you just want to track any changes in the event, you can use change data capture. So as the name indicates, it will capture the changes in your data. It will tell you, hey, the new record got inserted, this record got updated, this record got deleted, things like that. Any questions? No. Okay. Now, let's understand, as I mentioned to you, we'll start with the REST APIs example, and then we will also do a SOAP web service. So we are only going to call it from Postman, and then as an assignment, you will have to figure out, and you can use ChatGPT, and we will do this assignment again in the class, but I want you to use and try it on your own first before we do it in the class. Okay, so first important thing is how to create a SOAP web service. Okay, so SOAP web service, as I mentioned to you, always has what you call is an XML waste, and it will have couple of things. It will have an envelope, which will inside of the envelope, you will have the header and the body. So that is what your SOAP message will have. So the root element that wraps the entire message, that is going to be the envelope. Now inside of that, you will have the header, which will have optional section for authentication, session ID, security, metadata. That will go inside of header, and the actual message, let's say you want to create a new account record, that actual account record information will be available inside of the body. Okay, so that's how you will send a SOAP message. And the first thing is what we're going to do. You can see here you have SOAP envelope. Inside of this, there is a SOAP header, and then you are sending a session header. So anything like the session ID will be part of the header. And then in the body will be your the message that you want to send. Let's say you want to create an account record, you will send is the account information inside the inside this SOAP envelope body. Okay, so in order to create a SOAP web service, what you have to do is you will have to, where did it go? One second. Okay. So in order to create a SOAP web service, you will have to define the class with the global keyword, okay? And then each of the methods will needs to be using the keyword called web service and also needs to have a static method, okay? It cannot be a non-static method because you're not going to create an object and all that. It has to be a static method. And also the keyword that they need to use is a web service keyword. And the class should always be global, okay? And that's the important thing. So global will be the name of the class and all the methods should have the keyword web service. So this is how you make sure to, what do you call, to create a SOAP web service. Okay, that is how you create it. So we'll go over to one of our account SOAP service. And here I'm going to go to the not the core Centauro.
So just for legacy systems, we use SOAP, right? It's just very rarely.
Yeah, very rarely. You will probably won't come across these days anything related to SOAP.
Okay.
Majority of the time, it's either platform events, CDC, or REST APIs. Okay. So now here, let's say we go to the Apex classes. And here in the account SOAP service, let's create that class. The name of the class is account SOAP service. File, new Apex class. Click OK, and then you have to mark it with global. And let's say we create a simple method inside of this. So this is how you create a SOAP web service. Global should be the keyword for the class because you're using it from an external system. So the class has to be global. And the response of the this method is of the type account response. So this is an inner class, right? The class inside another class. So account response will have account ID and a message, which has a getters and setters. We have already talked about it. So this is your account response. And this is a method called create account. It takes in 3 parameters, name, phone, and industry. And it inserts that account record into your system and give you back a response. And also that response will have the ID of the newly created account. And this message will be part of it. Okay, a simple method I have created inside of this account SOAP service. So far, you know how to call it. We will see how to call it through the Postman. And then later on, we will also see how to basically call it through another Salesforce or, okay? So we will have to create a WSDL file. We have to all of that. There are multiple functions, but before I teach you, you need to first take a look at it yourself, okay, as an assignment. So now this is my SOAP service that has been created. So I will go over to Postman. And here I will go ahead and call the SOAP service. And you can see here, this is my account that I'm creating. So create account is the name of the method. And you can see here, that's exactly what is the name of the method is create account. It is expecting name, phone, and industry. So I'm passing the name, phone, and industry here. And this is my message. Okay. Now it is also passing the session header. Now, where do I get this session header from? So the way to get the session header is to make this call, which is the authorization call, and using this client ID and client secret. So basically through the connected app, I was able to get the client ID and the client secret. And then using the client ID and client secret, let's see if you're able to get a session ID. Yes, you did. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this access token. And this is the access token I'm going to use in my SOAP service and replace it over here. Okay, so this is my method. And then here, I'm going to go ahead and see how many account records do I currently have. And you can see here, if I run this query to see how many records we're supposed to do this one, where created date is equals to today. And run export, and here okay, so no data today. So now here I'm going to go ahead and run the SOAP, and the message I'm going to say Deepika, MyTutorialRack, and Salesforce technology. And let's go ahead and hit send here, and you will see I'm expecting the result here. It is of the type create account response is the body. And wait a minute. Actually, I was expecting a better response. Okay, but let's see if that account got inserted successfully or not. So if I run this query, you can see the account got successfully inserted. And if you go here to the Salesforce, you will see that MyTutorialRack has been successfully inserted. You can see here Deepika MyTutorialRack. This is the phone number. So all that information is coming from your Postman. So first we have to authenticate ourselves. And the way to authenticate is through this connected app. So from the code also, from if you're hitting it from a Salesforce org, you will basically first authorize yourself, and then you will get the session ID or the access token. And that access token you will use to make your next call, which is the SOAP service call. And inside of that, you will are sending the parameters. And this is how you invoke a SOAP web service. Okay. Any questions on this one?
So for session ID, you need a
Client ID,
authentication token, right?
Yeah. So through the connected app, you got the client ID and client secret. Remember, we learned about creating a connected app.
Yeah.
So through the client ID and client secret, you got the session ID, and that session ID is the one that I'm using it over here.
Gotcha.
Okay. So this is how you invoke a SOAP service. We don't have to go too deep into SOAP service, but if you want me to cover an example where you want from one Salesforce org to another Salesforce org, make a SOAP call, we can do that also. But just for this point also, it's important to learn that the method has to be declared with the web service keyword and also has to be static. And the other thing is the class needs to be global. Okay. Now, the next important thing is the REST web service. Okay, so how will you create a REST resource? Very, very important. As the Salesforce automatically have created a REST APIs for all the objects. Okay, so if you create a case, like if you have an API for case as well. Similarly, you have an API for account and all of that. So if you want to retrieve all accounts, if you wanted to create a new account, you can use those existing APIs. But let's say you want a response which those standard APIs don't give you, then in that case, you can create your own REST resource. And the way to create a REST resource is very simple. First, you have to use this key annotation called @REST resource. And then you have to provide a URL mapping, means how will I come and access this resource? So you have to have a unique mapping for that particular resource. So for example, /account/v1/* means this particular, anytime in my URL, if I have accounts/v1, automatically the request will come to this resource. Okay. Now inside of this, the class again has to be global. And then you will also have all the methods needs to use the annotation. So if you're using a post method, it would be HTTP post annotation would be there with that method. And generally a post method is to create a new record. If you are trying to just retrieve something, you will use is called as the HTTP get method. Okay. If you're trying to update something, you will have something called as a patch. So from the URL, from the postman, if you have this in the URL /accounts/v1 slash whatever, let's say ID or whatever it is, if you're using a post method, then if you're making a post call, then the post method of this class will be invoked. If you're making a get call, then the get method of this class will be invoked. If you're making a delete call, then the delete method of the class will be invoked. Okay. The URL mapping is the same, but depending upon what method you are using in the post call, okay, or from wherever you're calling the HTTP, depending upon what method, that exact method of that class will be invoked. And another point to remember is that all the custom objects and the standard objects automatically have APIs given to them, and all you need to use is access them. Okay, but let me show you what that API is. Standard REST call, right? So here, let's say I did not created a API yet, right? There is no API. So this is your standard REST API that Salesforce gives to you. Here, if you want to retrieve an account with this ID, let's say this is the ID, and I'm pasting this ID over here, Control V, hit send. Oh, session expired. So first, let me get in the headers, let me get this one was the one, right? Yeah. So I'm going to copy this and then the standard REST call, and we will go here, get this one, bearer, paste it. Oh, this is wrong. Control C, then standard REST call. To this. Okay. Okay, so now you can see here, this is a standard API that I'm invoking, okay? And with the particular account ID, it gave me the name of the account, the ID of the account, and if there was other pieces of information, this is all the data it returns back, okay? Now, along with the account, if you wanted contacts also and the related opportunity, then you will have to basically write your own custom API. But if you just want what the standard REST API of the out-of-the-box Salesforce is giving you, you don't have to create a custom API. Okay, this is not only for standard objects, this is also for a custom object as well. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create this particular REST resource. And here I'm going to go ahead and call this as account REST service. So I'll go back. Guys, let me know if you have any questions. And account REST service. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. So here I'll go to the developer console and file, new, Apex class, REST service, click OK. And this is the name. I'm going to copy this. So now let's understand what this particular one is doing. Okay. So here, let's see what this one is doing. So inside of this is my REST resource. So anytime in my call, if I have account slash v1, this is the class, and every REST resource will have a URL mapping, okay? Because that is how it will know which particular method or which particular class to come to. So here, account slash v1, this is the class it will come to. Now, inside of this, I have created basically two inner classes, one for the request, that this is the request should look like. It should have a name, phone, and industry, and then the response will have the ID, message, and the actual data, whatever the data you are trying to send back. Okay, that is going to be the response. Now, HTTP post, this is my post request. Okay, so whenever you're making a post call from Postman, this method will be called. Inside of this, what you're doing, you're basically creating an account response object. Okay, now anybody can explain to me what's going on over here? What's happening in this line, guys?
So we want to get body.
Okay.
If it's not null,
Uh,
we want to convert it to a string or just
exactly. So if basically we are checking the request body of that message, and if it is not null, we are getting the toString out of it, means we are converting into a string. Okay. Then we are checking if if the string is blank body, which means if this body is blank, okay, after you have converted, if the body is blank, then we are returning back a status code of 400 and telling the request body is required, and we're sending back that as a response. If the body is not blank, we are deserializing. Remember, serializing and deserializing. Serializing is converted into an actual object, and then here what they're doing is we are deserializing into this account create request, which is nothing but of this type, account create request. So from that request, they are checking, they are capturing the name, phone, and industry, and they are basically using that piece of information to create an account record, and then they are inserting that account record. Once they have inserted the account record, we will get the ID. So then they are constructed the response, and that in the response, they are sending back the ID, sending this message, and then whatever the A is, which is nothing but the account information, we are putting into this data, and the status code, we are setting it up to 201, and we are sending back that as the response. Anybody has any questions in this post method?
Why are we sending a code of 201?
Because okay, so there are different codes. Okay, so 201 means something got created at the server end. That is why it says 201. 200 is a good response, means okay, this request went successfully, we are sending back a 200 as the status code. 400 means something was wrong with your request. 500 means there was some error at the server side. So these are different status code. Okay, so if
it's sending that back to the
user.
to
So let's say from the postman, okay, so from the postman, I will go ahead and do this REST post call, okay? And this is my accounts. Remember, accounts is in the mapping, and V1 is the version 1. That's exactly what I have defined here, accounts slash V1. So it will come over to this class. Now from here, I am calling a post method. You can see here I'm making a post call. In the header, I have to give a proper ID. So let me get that ID from here. So this one was the session ID, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the post call, copy this ID, paste it here, and in the body, I have J and J. So let's say we'll call this as PB and J. Phone number is 222. This is technology. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and do send, now if you see here the status, let's look at the response. So it gave you back the message as account created successfully. Okay. ID is the ID of the newly created account. And then name is this, phone number, whatever you sent, it sent you back. And then the status code it gave you is the 201 has been successfully created. Okay. So this one, you don't have to, in the response, it's not sending you back the status code. So you don't have to worry about this status code. We don't have to send it, but you can actually put it as part of your response also in this call itself. But you can see here, anytime you make a post request, if it is a successful, it gives you back a response of 201.
Okay.
Okay. So did you understand that, okay, this is your request that you're making. It has name, phone, industry, and it is coming to which method? Automatically, it will come over to the post method of this class. Because this class has a lot of other methods. It has HTTP GET method, it has a patch method, it has a delete method. So how does it know which particular method to invoke? That depends on, from the post, which particular method are you invoking. Okay.
Okay.
Now, next one inside of this, I have an HTTP GET. So what is this going to give? So can anybody explain to me what's going on in the HTTP, in this GET method, GET account?
So from the try catch or from the
From
first?
try-catch, yeah.
Yeah. So so we have a try catch.
Hmm.
So we got the account ID, and if
How?
account
This is a method, right? Get last path segment. So I have to first see what it is inside of this, which is this method is right here. Yeah. So what are we doing inside of this?
okay, so here okay, so we have okay, so we got the URI.
What is the URI?
That's the request URI. Is it URL or
Yeah.
URL?
Yeah. So it's basically going to give you this thing, that you have. This is your URI. Okay.
Okay, so we got the URI of the request, and if it's blank, return null.
Hmm.
Otherwise, we create a list, and uh, we split the slash.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Means that we kind of we remove the slashes,
Okay.
and then what we return, uh, if it's empty, we return null. Otherwise, we return size -1. I don't understand that part.
Okay. So basically, what it is happening is get last path. We want to, so this is a get method, right? So we want to fetch some information. So in the call itself, we will pass in the ID of the record that we want to get the information on. So from the URI, how do we fetch the ID part, right? We want to know the ID because that is the ID I will use in my query to go fetch that record. So the way to retrieve the ID is we are splitting up this whole row in with the help of these slashes. So what we are doing is we are breaking this complete URI. Sorry, we are breaking this complete URI into a list. So what will happen is the services will go in block 0. Apex REST will go in block 1. Accounts will go in block 2. V1 will go in block 3. And this ID actual 001 will go in block 4. So now here I'm saying parts. So this becomes the list, right? The parts. Now parts dot size. What is the size of parts? What is the size of this whole thing? 5? 5.
5, sorry, yeah.
5 minus 1. So parts index of 4 is going to give me what? This ID. Right? That's what we are doing. Parts dot size minus 1 means give me the value which is at index of 4.
Right. Basically, because it starts from 0, we need to just have a -1 to reach to that ID.
Yeah,
As
we
these
want
are
to
used.
reach to the last one. It starts from the 0. We split it up based on this slash. So this will every element has a slash in there. So it will convert it into a list. And in the list, services will be at index of 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, and 4. And then what we are doing is on the top, going back in the get method, we are calling that, it will give you the account ID. We are checking because all the account IDs will start with 001. If you go to any account record, it will always start with 001. And if it doesn't start with 001, we will let them know, provide a valid account ID in the URL. If it is fine, then we convert it into a string. Then we are checking if the body is, first we are checking, is the ID correct or not? Does it start with 001? If it starts with 001, if it doesn't start with 001, we will send this message back. Then we are checking, is there any request body? Okay. Sorry, this was a patch method. I'm so sorry. This is the get method. So here we are checking string of account ID, means we are getting the account ID from this method. Then we are checking, does the ID starts with 001? If it doesn't start with 001, we are sending back a response saying provide a valid account ID. If it is valid, then we are making the query to retrieve the name, phone, industry, website, and type of the account where the ID is equals to the ID that we are passing it from the postman. And then it will fetch all that information and return you back the response. So here, if I go over and if I call the get method now, so this is my get method. If I call the get method and pass in this ID, and let's get our token. So this is my token here, Control C, and this I'm going to put it over here, and I'll make this call. And now it is going to fetch the complete information about that account. Okay, it is fetching the name, the phone number, and the industry. So this is my get call. In the patch call, what I'm doing, pretty simple. I'm updating the account record. Okay. Any questions on this get? How did we get the ID of this, right? So this is from another system, you will be passing in the ID of the record you want to query. So from that URL, we figured out the ID part. We use that ID part to query the Salesforce record database, and we retrieved these pieces of information, and that is the information we are sending back in the response. Is everybody crystal clear?
Yeah, makes sense.
Now, yes, go ahead.
Well, I had a question. So if it's a group of records, and when it's doing the get to which records it's going to get and to fill in there, it's creating a list of which records, right?
No. Okay, come back
No.
again. This is only one record, right? We are only passing one
Right.
ID.
But what if it was a group of records? I mean, you'd
You
have
cannot
to
do
you'd have
that.
to.
You
Okay.
cannot do that. So it
Okay.
will, so if it was, you cannot have slash another one and all that. No, it's only going to have one ID at the end.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, but if that was something that you needed to do, like, would that be a list created to do that? If that had to be done that way, or that
So
could not be
then
done?
what you will do is, then you will have like um a account slash V1, and you will query all the account records. So let me show you. So remember the standard REST call that I showed you? So if I remove this, and let's see what it does. See here, in the standard REST call, I'm not passing the ID. So it basically gave me all the account records that are available with different IDs. You see here?
Right.
So something like this we will have to do. where you will have to write, that's going to be either you can use this particular standard REST API that Salesforce provides, or you have to write your own custom API that if somebody is using account, you retrieve all the accounts that are available in the org. Then you have to write the query in the backend and construct your response accordingly.
So now this is a custom API?
This is a standard API. See here,
Okay.
V60 S objects.
Okay.
And it returned you back all the account records that exist in your org.
So since you add like account slash we were not, is that is the custom API? Is that is also a standard API?
This is a standard API.
Okay.
Whenever you see S objects slash, that is a standard API. That is a
Oh.
Salesforce API.
Oh,
So
okay.
Linda, what was your question? Let me understand your question one more time.
Well, what I was thinking was if in other words, if you had to update a group of records within the org, and
Okay,
you
so
were
then
using
you will use something called as bulk API. REST API generally is for when you have a bunch of records and all of that, then you can use bulk API. REST API generally is to update a set of record or deleting a record or creating a new record. That is when the REST API is used for. Usually will be around one record, not a list of records or anything.
Okay.
Okay.
So a smaller list of records.
Smaller list, yeah.
Okay.
So now similarly, you have a patch method here and the code is very simple. It first fetches the account ID. Okay, if it checks, does the account ID starts with 001? If it doesn't, it sends you a message back that account should be starting with 001. Then it is checking what is in the body, because you have to also send something in the body as well, because that's what you are updating, right? Whatever, let's say you're updating the phone number or the name of the account, all of that. So if the body is empty, the request body's required message will be sent. If it is not empty, then you are deserializing into this account create request. And then you are basically retrieving the account based on the ID, and then you are updating with all the proper information that you're sending through the postman. So here, let's say you currently, if I go to this 001, it is MyTutorialRack, and then 123456789 is the phone number. So if I need to make a patch call, all I need to do is call this. Okay, this is my ID. Sorry, let me go to the header and copy this ID here. And let's say this is my account ID, and go to the body, and let's say the body here is still, I'm going to change it to Deepika Khanna, MyTutorialRack. And then phone number, I'll say 1111111. Let's say this is the phone number. Okay. Now if I go and hit send, the account has been successfully updated. And if I refresh this, you will see the name has been changed. Account is still the same. The ID is the same. It changes. Wait a minute. Did it updated it? Oh, I didn't make I actually made it the patch. I should have made the patch call instead of this. So now here, if you go to this one, you will see that account has been successfully updated. So when I did see Deepika Khanna MyTutorialRack, and phone number is this. Okay, so then this is a patch call has been made. So today what we discussed was, we saw how to create a REST web service. We saw how to create a SOAP web service. And then what we did was, we basically saw how to invoke them from Postman. If you know how to invoke them from Postman, it is easy to mimic how to invoke it from your Apex code as well. And we have seen multiple times how to invoke a REST API from Apex code. Any questions on what we discussed today? Okay, guys. So tomorrow is December 31st. It's up to you. You guys wanted a class or you don't want a class tomorrow?
Can we cancel the class for tomorrow?
Okay, what about Linda, Gayatri?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Let's do
so
this.
we'll see you then. I will see you on 5th then. No more cancellations after 5th.
Great.
Okay, I'll see you
Okay.
then. But as an
Thanks.
assignment, guys, please check out my integration course and also try to do the SOAP call from another system. Okay, from Salesforce and invoke the SOAP service. Will you be able to do that as an assignment?
Yeah, sure.
Will we have the sheet that you had that we
I'll
can
update it. I'll upload it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Year.
Bye.